Alrighty, thank you so much, everybody. So I'm just going to start by introducing myself. My name is Louisa. I am one of the education consultants based here in Melbourne. I was a primary school teacher and a PYP coordinator for a number of years prior to beginning at Schoolbox. I'm going to hand over to Chloe in just a second to introduce herself as well. But before I do, I really wanted to make this comment earlier at the last session, but I didn't know because there was primary and secondary and some IT people in the room as well, and I didn't think it was going to land as well. But what I used to always say when my students came in from lunch, and I really wanted to practice it again, was, I hope your tummies are full and your brains are on. So please can you give me a thumbs up if your tummies are full and your brains are on? Yay! All right, over to Chloe.
Thank you so much. So as Louisa said, she's got a background of primary. In my experience is about 13 years in both primary and secondary. So some of you might recognise me in sort of the background working as the training, learning and content team, working predominantly with the online learning course. So with today, if you were in the session just before, presented by Louisa and Jez, obviously some of those examples that they showed and some of the schools that showed how unit planning templates can be utilised, our course and curriculum packages can be used, as well as centralising all of this and being able to mimic this in our lesson plan templates. So it's really hands-on session for you to workshop through this through our instances that we've created for you today, and hopefully you can map that out into get some great examples and experiences from this that you can take back to your school. So you can see an example of what we're going to work on today. So by the end of this session, you'll be hopefully a lot more confident at building those unit plan templates for your home pages, creating those lesson plan templates that you'll be able to utilise through whether that is how previous schools have demonstrated that as maybe a topic planner or a weekly planner, so not specifically having to be that lesson by lesson plan template. We've got our unit planner as well, and then bringing that all together and collating that into our curriculum coverage report.
Okay, so, no, you can't hear me. I'll just use my teacher voice. So, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what we're going to be doing today, because we are going to give you some instructions, one of the things I really wanted to highlight in the last session, but we ran out of time, was that the new functionality within Schoolbox, being the unit planner with the lesson plan templates and the curriculum coverage report, I think for more than anyone across the school, it really benefits the junior school space. I think most of you can probably agree with me that prior to this functionality, it has potentially been a little bit difficult to engage some of your junior school teachers because they are quite hands-on, and a lot of it is probably through learning moments and that sharing of the learning, but a lot of your teachers in the junior space probably aren't doing a heap of assessment. Could I get maybe a show of hands if you sort of agree with that statement, that a lot of your junior school teachers, yeah, okay, so that's a bit of half-half, that's good. But what we're really wanting to show you today is how you can engage the remainder of those junior school teachers through these functionality pieces and how they can have all of their planning. And this is, I'll be honest, this is where I feel I drank the Kool-Aid of Schoolbox, because I could see how you could use Schoolbox for all of your planning requirements. And as you would have heard from the session before, if you were in that one, it really doesn't matter what state you're in, what curriculum you use, or anything like that, because it can all, it's curriculum agnostic, meaning we can modify and we can configure everything in this space to suit your school requirements. So, on your tables, there is an envelope and some instructions of how to log in. I'm going to ask you all to open that envelope and scan the QR code of one of the little pieces of paper. You're all going to be logging into our a Meetup instance. so that you all have special access. And the reason why this is important is because we're giving you special service level permissions so that you can do all the things that we need you to do. So I'll give you a minute or two just to make sure that you can all log in, and please do use our instance that we've spun up for you rather than your own, because you do need to have certain service level permissions and you may not have that in your regular instance. Shout out if you need a hand. Alrighty, we ready to go? Okay. First thing I just want to highlight, and the main reason we are doing this on an instance that we have spun up for each of you, is because to be able to do the things that we're going to do today, you need to have 3 service permissions. Without these, you are not able to build and change and modify the things that we're going to be working on. So just something to take back to your school. If you are not someone who has curriculum service level permission, CMS service level permission, or LMS service permission, you will not be able to do this unless, of course, you're a super user. So what I would recommend is, if you are not a super user and you don't have these service level permissions, but you're keen to take this back to your school, just note these 3 service level permissions, because this is what's going to give you the ability to make these modifications and these changes in the back end today. Okay, so I'm actually going to... Okay, I'll speak to this first and then I'm going to demo so that you can walk through it with me. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do today is we are going to have a go at creating or updating a curriculum. Now, as you heard from the presentations before, and as you would know from your own instances, a lot of curriculum has already been built in the back end for you to import. What I want you to note here is that whilst we have your traditional circumstance of a curriculum, so we've got things like the Australian curriculum, Victorian curriculum, New South Wales curriculum, we're working on the Victorian curriculum and so forth. So we've got a range of different traditional curriculums, but what I want you to think about when we talk about curriculum is not necessarily those standards that are required from the states that you work within, but also that curriculum can be built out as things like characteristics that you use within your school, key dispositions that you might use within your school. For example, if you're an international baccalaureate school, using that framework to ensure that you are also meeting all of those requirements as well. But anything that you can see wanting to map to any of the courses and units that you use, you can build them out as curriculum. We've worked with schools in the past who have done some pretty impressive things here of just things that they wanted to ensure that they're mapping, that they're tracking, that they are being taught within their classroom. So key attitudes, key skills, particular thing, you might have a really key focus on digital learning and your school has built out some key characteristics around that. You can build that within the curriculum space and you can make it something that teachers can tag and can use across all of their teaching and learning through their units. So what we're going to do is we are going to jump into the instance that you are in now, and because you have curriculum service level permissions, you can make changes and modifications. I'm conscious of jumping back and forth given the directions are here, but basically if you navigate to the top menu item within that instance, you will see that there is one called curriculum. What I want you to do from there is either select a curriculum that is already there. Because of your service level permissions, you can edit it using the pencil icon, or you can create your own. So think about your school context and whether or not you have these less traditional senses of the curriculum notion that I was just discussing, or if you just want to use one that's there, but I want you to have a go at actually modifying or changing. Something here to note is that what you'll see is there are varying levels of curriculum codes, or curriculum nodes, I should say. We call the nodes are sort of those top level areas, and then the codes are the ones that can be taggable. So what I ask you to do is If there is one with a code, it means it can be selected within your curriculum. So if you want it to be something that can be tagged, it must have a code, and you can add in whatever kind of code that you like. But that would be the best thing to note, is that if it is a node, it needs a code. So with that in mind, can I get you all to jump on, have a go, either create your own curriculum or have a play with one of the ones that is already there? Does that make sense? Cool. Lots of enthusiasm. Well, the thing is, I have to. So for those of you who might want a little bit more instruction, the top menu item here of curriculum, and then you should have a range of different curriculum packages at your disposal there. You can either select the pencil icon, which will allow you to make modifications. You can open up, so if you want to, and please, you can break whatever you like in this space. This is yours. We've set this up just for you. You can change the Australian curriculum to be Monsters Incorporated, whatever you like. This is yours. So please go into those spaces. You can change English to another language. You can change the levels to whatever you like. It is yours to do what you like with. If you want to create something new from this space, you would just use the plus icon, and then you can create your own curriculum. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. We'll do a little roam around. Go from there. Alrighty. I know we only just really touched on that, but it's not the key piece of what we're about to do. So I'm going to ask everyone to just click save on whatever curriculum they are working on, because now we're getting into the really good fun part. What we're about to do is build out our unit planner. And when I say we're going to build out our unit planner, what I mean are the key pieces. So this is a unit planner. This is I went to the Year 9 one. We're in junior. So, your unit planner. What I want you to think about when we think about unit planner is, what do your teachers use, or what does your school have in place as requirements for those planning templates? So as you can see here, we have the course that encompasses everything that we are going to cover within that particular subject area. So the example that I always use, and the reason I use this one, is because it has been built out with a lot of complex information. However, it does not need to be this complex. But I use the example of Year 3 PYP units of inquiry. Within PYP schools, they are required to have a range of different fields within their planning documentation, and that can be quite granular based on the school, and sometimes it's quite tailored to the school's requirements. But I had a really wonderful question over here around, we're not a PYP school, or we're a K-12 school, or we have different year levels with different requirements. The beautiful thing about these unit planners is all of these headings that you see across the top here, so things like central idea, lines of inquiry, conceptual understandings, and so forth, this is all completely configurable by you. So you within the school get to define and decide what you are going to put on your unit templates. What I always encourage schools to think about is, what are your minimum expectations? But then also, what do you want to see? If you're a year level leader, or if you're a curriculum leader, what are the absolute requirements that you want all of your teachers to be completing when it comes to all of their teaching and learning content within that particular subject area? So what I'm going to ask you all to do is maybe think about a template or a pro forma document that you currently have in place within your school, whether it be a Word document, SharePoint, Google Doc, whatever it might be, wherever you keep those templates. And I want you to bring that up for me, because because we're basically going to translate that into a Schoolbox format so you can see it come to life. What we're then going to do, actually I'm going to give you a minute or so to bring up one of your pro formas or one of your templates so you've got it at the ready. So please have a look in your documents, find something. It can be an empty template, it can be a filled out template, it doesn't matter. We really just want to know those key headings that you require in those spaces. Bring it up so it's at the ready for you. Yes. Can you give me a thumbs up if you've got that ready? Perfect. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you all to follow me with what I'm about to do, because again, your special service level permissions that we've given you is going to allow you to do this. So, can you click on your administration, so your profile, yours is probably the little whale in the top corner, and can you click on administration? We're going to the back end of the Schoolbox right now. Now, your left-hand panel will probably look quite different to mine, and that's because we've just given you those 3 service level permissions, so you don't have access to everything, but you don't need access to everything. What I'm going to get you to do is click on the left-hand side where it says LMS. You can see me hovering over that right now. Uncollapse that. Sorry, I lie. I digress. I'm jumping ahead. We are actually firstly going to do resources. So jump to resources, and we are going to select homepage template. Is everyone with me? Yep. Cool. Alrighty. Now, we are going to create our own homepage template. And what I mean by that is we are going to create those text boxes with the titles based on whatever your pro forma or template is. And we're also going to have a little play with some curriculum components as well. So the first thing I need you to do in this particular screen in homepage templates is to click the plus icon. Because a few of you are in the same instance, I want you to give your template a name that is different from the person next to you so you can decipher it's yours. There is no harm in putting your name here, so long as you don't put anything confidential in this space, which please don't, you are safe to put your name here. These are all going to be wiped anyway. So I might call this Louise's template. And click create. What I then would ask you to do is just ensure, because sometimes depending on your settings, this might revert back to blank. So just confirm that the drop down, the title there, is in line with the title that you just created your new template. Cool. Alrighty. Everyone with me? Perfect. So, the next phase, or the next step I want you to do, is we're going to drag text boxes to your page where we are going to give them the same titles as what is on your school planning template or pro forma. So it could be something, if I drag this text box down here, I'm going to open up that settings cog right there. And I could call this one term overview, because that is probably likely what I might have on my unit page. And then I'm going to click update. I then might add another text box. And here I might call this one key vocabulary. And click update. So I'm going to give you a bit of time to do that, but I just want to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to give you a bit of time to really build this out. The main things that we need on a homepage template: text boxes with as many, you can have as many text boxes as you like based on your requirements within the school. A curriculum component. Curriculum components come under the tab of learning, and you would be using the curriculum overview. Do not use curriculum description, use curriculum overview. So if we drag that down to the page. Now, something that the curriculum overview can do, and this goes back to what if we have, a K-12 school and we've got a different curriculum in the junior space to the senior space, or what if we are a curriculum school where we have the Australian curriculum in alignment with the IB, or as I mentioned earlier, you can build out your key skills or your school's characteristics or requirements in that space. We can have multiple curriculum overviews that filter different curriculum requirements. So where we get down to this curriculum tree filter, you are able to narrow down the area that you want your teachers to be able to select from. So if I wanted to do specifically, I love this classroom norms one, I want to be able to say on my page, I want classroom norms, but I also want the Australian general capabilities. So this first one is only going to be able to select whatever falls under classroom norms as my curriculum, and I'm going to click select, and I'm going to change the heading of that particular curriculum component to align with the curriculum that I'm selecting. Classroom. And click update. I can then add another curriculum component or another curriculum overview. And this one, I might say, you know what? I want this one to be very much just the curriculum, the Australian curriculum general capabilities. So I'm going to select that tree filter, select, and then again, I'm going to change the title so that it's really clear that this is the one that I'm going to be narrowing down to. So I'm going to say Oz curriculum, general capabilities, and click update. The final piece, I understand I'm giving you 3 things here, and then I'm going to get you to go forth and create. The final piece is you need to ensure that you still have a course builder on your page so that your teachers can build out assessments, they can build out their weekly lesson plans, they can build out their daily lesson plans. If you use them, they can build out those intricacies of how they intend to actually teach this content within this particular course. But just as we've done with all of the others, you can change the title of the course builder, because I understand that in a primary space that probably doesn't make a heap of sense. So you could turn this into assessments and planning if you wanted to, and click update. So just to recap, text boxes, as many as you need, changing the titles so that they are in line with your planning documentation that you have within your school. Curriculum overviews, again, so that you can stack different curriculums on top of one another and you're able to sort of track where things are being covered and how things are being covered. And then finally, the course builder, so that you can build out your assessments and your planning within that space. I'm going to give you all about, say, 5-10 minutes to start to replicate as much as you possibly can from your current planning documentation into a Schoolbox homepage template. Alrighty, I'm going to move on just because I'm conscious of the time, but I am loving the really, really rich discussions that we are having. What we're going to do now is we are going to put this to life. So I've had some really great questions. What does this look like for a teacher? What does this look like when it's actually on the unit planner? So we're actually going to do the next step now of bringing it to life. So we've done the homepage template in the background. We've set up the requirements. We've tried to make it as identical as possible to your current planning documentations or templates that you've got within your school. Now, to bring this to life, what we need to do is we need to pair it with a course template. So you created your unit template. We need to pair it with a course template. And that's done through something called course frameworks. So everything, so long as you've clicked update, everything should have saved in this space. This is where we are going to go to LMS. This is where I got excited before. We're going to click on LMS in the left-hand side, and you are going to select course framework. What we're doing here is we're telling the system, please put together this template and this template to surface what I will see on my unit planner. So we've just created a unit page. So we're just going to use a standard course template for now. What we're going to do is we're going to click Add Framework. You're going to name your framework whatever you want to call it. Again, thinking about the other people on the table and making it a distinguishable name from the others on your table. So I will call this Louisa's framework. What I need to do is just select the course. We're just using course for now. And then the unit that I'm going to select is the one that you have all just created. So I'm going to use my Louisa's template. So I'm pairing the two different templates together to then see what my unit planner will look like. Once I do that, I just need to click Save Changes. Everyone with me? Everyone done that? Excellent. Okay. Now, to see what that looks like in real life, we're going to go to the courses. So the courses top menu item, this one here. And for the time being, we're going to create a new course. Give your course a name. So again, I'm going to call it Louisa's course. Pop it in whatever folder, doesn't really matter where it goes. I'm just going to put this one in ELC. And the important piece here is selecting the framework that you've just made. So we need to tell this course what is it going to look like when I open up this unit planner. So I'm going to select Louisa's framework, or framework since I can't spell. And then I'm going to click Next. I'm going to just add 2 units. I'm just naming them 1 and 2. And then once I've done that, I click Save Course. Everyone with me? Cool. Now, I am going to search for my course. There it is. I'm going to open up the unit planner of the course that I've just made, which I can do from a number of different places. I can do it directly from this 3-dot menu where it says Unit Planner, or I could click on my course and I could find the unit planner from this 3-dot menu as well. Behind every 3-dot menu is a unit planner. And here I can see the text boxes with the titles that I've created surfacing for all of my units, as well as the curriculum components or the curriculum overview, filtering to the curriculum that I've selected for each of my units as well. And I know that because if I select a curriculum code, I can only select the classroom norms in this space. Or if I select on the Australian curriculum, I'm only able to select the Australian curriculum. What you can see here is everything that we've just built coming from your current school templates is now surfacing in a Schoolbox unit planner, and you can make those modifications and changes. Now, we created it from a brand new course, but if I jump to Louisa's course for a second, if I thought, you know what, it's not the right framework, or I've made some kind of changes to my framework, in this space here, I can change my framework. What it will do is will not delete any content that I've currently got on my unit because it's not built to delete anything. All it's going to do is add the new features, so the new text boxes, the new curriculum components, anything that you've got to your page and make it so that that is your template. That's your pro forma. So anything that you currently have in place will not be lost. You might just have to move it over to the new text boxes and the new pro formas. I can also, if I make any changes to my template, say we've been using Schoolbox for a year, I've decided, actually I'm going to use Jack as an example. Jack just said, what if we are going to add a new curriculum into play now? What's going to happen there? I can also just make the changes to my template because your template is your source of truth. And then I can reapply the framework and it will add on those new pieces that were not there previously. So if I've decided that I'm going to add a text box in term 4 for next year, didn't have it before, but I think it's really important to highlight key skills. If I reapply the framework, it will add on to my unit planner. Cool. All right. Next thing we're going to do is lesson plans. So I mentioned unit plan is really, really great tool for your overview. It's really, really great for your scope and sequence type documentation to say in term 1, we're going to be doing this. In speaking and listening, we're going to be doing this. But it doesn't get into the granularity of the teaching, how you're planning to teach. So what we're going to do here is actually populate one of the ones that are pre-filled. You can create your own lesson plan templates in the back end. In the interest of time, we're not going to today, but you most certainly can, and I'll just quickly show you via administration. Again, in LMS, you've got this option here for lesson plan templates. This is where you can build your own template. So if you're thinking we're going to do week by week planning, or we're going to do term by term planning, or if we're going to use a phonics program, for example, you can build all of that here within this space. But because, interest of time, we're not going to do that. We're just going to have a go at populating one so I can show you some of the awesome features that we've got in that space. So I'm going to go back to Louise's course, navigate to my unit planner, which is where you will all currently be within your own units. And I'm going to use my course builder. Now, I renamed my course builder Assessment and Planning. However, you may have renamed yours something slightly different. The way that you will know what I'm talking about, though, is you'll see this little arrow pointing down. This is where you're going to select to create an activity. What I'd like you all to do is to click Lesson Plan. Now, really, really key thing that I heard from the session before that was an invaluable note was that I know in primary schools, it's probably pretty rare that you are planning lesson by lesson. This is terminology within Schoolbox that can 1000% be changed. In fact, some of the people in this room, I've changed this terminology for you in the back end to just say planning, because I understand that you're probably using these templates for termly planners, weekly planners, daily planners, a range of different contexts, and sometimes that terminology lesson plan can put teachers off. So it is something that is configurable. But in the interest of today, we're using lesson plans. What I'd like you to do is select one of the options that are here. Given we're in a primary space right now, I would suggest you use the generic primary if you would like to. You certainly do not need to. Or you could use the junior term planner. This one is my absolute favorite because this is how I used to plan when I was a teacher. The junior term planner, once you click on it or any of these lesson plan templates, it will show you a preview. So you know if this is the one that you want to use. Select the one that you would like to use, scroll down to the bottom and click Use Template. In this space, as a teacher, you just need to give it a title. So if this was my Term 1 planning, I'm going to say Term 1 English. I can then, and please do click along with me as I do this, I can then select the curriculum codes that I want to use within this space. And I'm going to show you a really cool tool that we have now if you have AI embedded within your instance. I can use AI to generate some initial ideas, and so we've given you all access to be able to do this, to generate some initial ideas of what you might like to have populated within each of those spaces. What's really important here is you can select whichever weeks you want to use. You can give your lesson plan a duration. So say this lesson plan is going for a whole term, so 10 weeks. You can put in as much detail as you would like there as possible. And then context is key. As much context as you can possibly provide in this space is going to give the AI a better understanding of what ideas it should be generating. So if you have a student in your class with disability in terms of a visual impairment, for example, you might say, please provide all lessons with a visual impairment differentiation strategy. So as much detail as you can within that space, and then you click Generate Lesson Plan with AI. I'm really conscious of the fact that we don't have much time, but please, can I get everyone to just have a go at using that for a moment? See what the AI can do. Again, this is not intended to take away from the teachers because the teachers still know best. They know the students more than anyone. They have the understanding of the content that is to be taught. This is purely used to prompt some ideas that may assist your teachers with how to teach particular areas that they're going to be teaching. Have a go with that for just a minute. And then I'm just going to quickly touch on the last point because I'm conscious of the time. And then we're going to have to wrap up. Alrighty. I do apologise regarding the time, but last thing. Okay, you're not there anymore. You will get a copy of all of these slide decks as well so that you know how to do this at your school. All right, just to quickly wrap this up. This is super, super helpful for your teachers, particularly in the junior space, to be using Schoolbox for all of their planning requirements. So again, the three key pieces are curriculum, unit planners, and lesson plan functionality. So all of those three things can be an absolute game changer within your school if you set them up the way that you're currently using your current planning templates or current planning processes. I'm just going to very, very quickly shout out our front row user over here, Sebastian. Sebastian has just been engaging in a consultancy with myself to do all of this in his junior school space, and it is looking phenomenal. So Sebastian, if anyone has any questions, is it okay if they come to you?
Please do. And I will say that a lot of the work that Louisa showed today was part of the engagement, that once we had agreed on something, the Schoolbox team kind of set it up and duplicated it and all that. So that was probably the number one time.
Awesome. Thanks, Sebastian. Very, very last thing. If you want to keep anything that you've done today, please make sure you take some screenshots or save it somehow so that you can make sure that you bring that back if there's something that's invaluable that you don't want to lose. You won't have access to this sandbox in the future. But any questions? Or if you want, you can grab me afterwards. Otherwise, thank you so, so much. I appreciate everyone's time. You've all been fantastic audience members, and hopefully you got something out of this session.